Hi, this is Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter. At College Recruiter, we believe that every student and recent graduate deserves a great career. I am joined here today by Hope White. Hi, Hope.
Hello.
And Hope is the founder of Hopeful Speaking and Consulting. It's a consulting company that helps students, recent graduates, candidates with years of experience find jobs with the federal government, prepare for the how to apply, how to interview, etc. And Hope has a long history of employment with the government. And she's a veteran. She's worked for the CDC, the Department of Transportation, U.S. Secret Service, and Veterans Health Administration. She's both knowledgeable and passionate, and having a really great time learning from her. She was telling me recently that a lot of candidates, and this is absolutely for sure is easily correct, have some real myths about how to find a job, how to get hired by the federal government. So she offered to jump on this Zoom call, and we could record it and dispel some of those myths. So Hope, what other opportunities are available for students that are pursuing a specific job?
Perfect. I'm happy. Let's go. So, that's one of the best things that you can do first in your pursuit of a federal job is to know what you actually want to do.
Hmm.
And once you do that and you know, okay, this is where, this is what I'm getting my degree in. I've done my research. I know exactly what I want to do. I know where I'm going to be physically located. Or maybe you're adventurous and you say, I can move around. One of the things that you'll find here on LinkedIn is you'll find this document here, internships, fellowships, and I'm going to open it up, and other work experience opportunities in the federal government.
Oh.
So basically, this document has, uh, it's beyond the Pathways program. There are some parts of the government that will never have a Pathways program set up. They have their own internship programs. And so, in order to find them, you have to usually go to their website. But I found this online and it has everything. And so, it is, of course, it has the pathways in there too, internship and recent grads. But what you will find is that if you have a specific job that you want and you're going to target specific agencies and departments, this is where you can come and just click on one and it'll show you exactly where to go. And so it's important that we do the research. You can find different information on the individual agency's website, but this is just a really good way to find a lot of them in one place with a nice description so you can determine whether or not you even want to, click on the link. All the links are active. They are all current. Yes, I did click through because I can't stand broken links. And so when you go through this process, notice here they have two separate things. That means under the DOT, well, actually, general counsel jobs, education. So they actually have three
Wow.
different places. So if you're just sticking to USA Jobs, all you're going to see is the Pathways program if they have some options that day.
Hmm.
But if you go out to their website, usually these jobs, I keep calling them jobs, you are paid for these things. Internships and fellowships, they pretty much, they have a cycle that they go through. There's a month that they're taking applications, and sometimes it is a year ahead of time, 6 months ahead of time. But at this time, because of COVID, things are kind of interesting. And so it's a good time for people to just take a moment and to go through and see what's going on. Because once you click on the link and you go to the website, it will then tell you what's going on. So even whereas before, it tells you here something. These positions are available year round. So some of them are not. So it just depends. That's why you have to know, this is what I want to do and have an idea of the agencies that you want to do it at, because then you can go after, just target that one agency. That means you use all of your resources. You use LinkedIn to find people, ask questions, and the place I should have talked about before too is the Office of Personnel Management website. So on OPM, if you just type in standards when you get here, right here, it will bring up these standards. So this is literally a list of all of the jobs. So these are what we call the standard titles of these jobs. So it may not be what you know to call the job,
Mhm.
because out there in the federal world, they get to make up what we call parenthetical titles or made up titles for their jobs. So I know, confuse you even more, right? So when you go in and you're looking at jobs, one of the things you will find consistently, because they have to, it's part of the process. I'm just going to grab one. Is that when you go down here, you will always see the job family or the job series for the job.
Mm.
So it's really three areas you need to consider when you're thinking about employment with the federal government. One is you need to go through the announcement step by step, word by word, and make sure that if you've done that thing, you have put it into your resume under the appropriate place. The second thing is you need to take your time with the questions that they ask and make sure that if you've done it, if you've had the training for it, then make sure that training is in your resume. And that's why everyone should use the USA resume builder that's already in there. So then you're not worried about a format or what order anything needs to be in. You just follow their standard form and fill in that information. And one of the areas that you fill in is job related training and education. And so for someone who's just getting out of school or who's still in school, that's going to be a big part of what you're putting in your resume. So take your time and do that. And then the other part is going to
So
be
actually, let me interrupt you for a second. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what this looks like to me is it's almost like if you're shopping for something on Amazon and you come across a product and towards the bottom of the page, it'll say something like, people who were interested in this might also or often are also interested in this. Um,
ex-
so
mhm,
this is that general student trainee link is going
mhm.
to take you to other jobs that are somewhat similar to this one. Is that what
Exa-
that's doing?
it's taking us right to other jobs that are in the same job series.
Yeah. So if you're
Exactly.
interested in that student trainee with the Air Force Civilian Service,
Hmm.
here are similar jobs, perhaps with other government
Hmm.
agencies like National Geospatial and say, okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, so if you found your way to one of these jobs, then that's a quick shortcut to
Hmm.
similar jobs with other agencies.
It is. And that's what people should be looking for. So some of these are going to be very general. But what you will find when you go into this document and you start using the links here, then they're specific to the agency. So it can be a variety of programs that they have in place.
Mhm.
So it's important to just take your time and know that this requires more. One of the things I say in my classes all the time is that you're going to work if you want a federal job, but
Yeah.
the work comes back to you in that once you get that job, you have your employer for life or your entire career. If you choose to stay, you pretty much have it. That's it. So give yourself 10 hours. I know it sounds like a lot, but it goes really fast when you're doing the work.
I'm glad you said that because I would have listening to you and kind of looking at these documents and all these links, I could see, the 22-year-old me as a college graduate, 187 years ago, I would have found this to be completely overwhelming. And I would have been like, I don't have 120 hours to do this. But so you think that like a 10-hour commitment is enough to do a decent job on this? So like 2 half days.
I say 10 hours to just manage expectations.
Yeah.
If you're a student and you're going through your classes, you've had a few internships here or there, you've worked in the library in different places, it won't take you as long to create the resume. What's going to take you longer is to find the right position,
Okay.
mainly because people don't know what they want to do.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. And I think
mhm,
that's got to be something that you can help them with too, right? It's
absolutely.
so some colleges and universities have really, really fantastic career service offices. And then there's the other 98% that just are woefully underfunded. And it's not the people in those offices almost without exception, have really good training. Their heart's in the right place. They really want to do the right thing, but it's one person for 2,000 students, and they just don't have the time. And it's a travesty, I think. So investing up front in really deciding what you want to do, not for the rest of your life, but for the first position, right? That's a
Right.
real key. And then that, correct me if I'm wrong, Hope, that's going to really help either the student, if they do it themselves or with your assistance, really narrow down the agencies and the roles to, and then with that federal resume, that's going to then make that applying to all of those jobs much easier.
Absolutely.
Even if they have the nicest looking resume in the world that their cousin helped them to create, and it's just fantastic in corporate America, that is not going to cut it for the federal government.
We just don't care about all the pizzazz. What
Yeah.
you will find is that USA jobs in the resume builder, when you look at it, it looks like this awful black and white. You can't put any special care. I mean, it's no bold or color is,
Mm.
but this is what everyone along the process is used to. That's our document. We know where to go to find everything. So when people come in with their other formats, um, and things are askew, and they don't put all the information in there, like how many hours a week, they don't provide us with all the classes that they took, because in the federal government, it's one of the last places that if you decide, okay, I don't really want to go to college. I tried it, it didn't work. Or I'm not finished. Can I still get a job? You absolutely can find employment, because unless it is a job, and it's not a lot of them, but we have those jobs that require a degree. They tell you that in the announcement. So,
Mhm.
doctor, lawyer, paralegal, specific agencies require that level of understanding to work as an analyst. It just depends on the job, and it will tell you in the announcement. But for the most part, we have administrative jobs that do not have a degree requirement. And so, what gives you the special edge in going to college is all of those fabulous classes that you take and all the knowledge that you get from them. That is what gives you points. It gives you knowledge, skills, knowledge, and abilities. That's what we're looking at. Skills and knowledge, those things can be met by education and training.
Mm.
And so then you're there. Mhm. And then other platforms where, whereas, okay, so you took a class on emotional intelligence because it was part of your business program, or
Oh,
maybe it was a few
I
chapters.
would have failed emotional intelligence for sure.
but if you have a student version or the student package um, for LinkedIn, I mean, they have tons of training there.
Yeah.
And so then even that training is considered training and acceptable. And that goes into your job related training, which means that you can answer truthfully, I have the training for it.
Right.
They have these lovely paths. See, pathways, but they have these paths in LinkedIn that if you take all of those classes together, you really will know about that subject, as opposed to just a 3-minute video. They have a combination of videos and programs all stacked up together that they call a path.
Right. And then they basically like kind of verify that you were paying attention. And then you get a certification for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. One of the things that that I've really learned from you, and I think that those who go to the webinars that you do each week, and you should show people that, um, is that there's a lot more sort of work up front if you're interested in federal government employment, but it really pays off in it, just, you know, after that initial application. So it's that first hurdle is a lot more significant than applying to a corporate job. Um, but one of the things that I find really interesting is that the whole system is designed for merit. Um, so it's not, it's more what you know than who you know. And I know that that's a real frustration for a lot of students whose families might not be well connected, whose uncle doesn't own a company, who, you know, they may be their first generation. And so they don't have those family connections to get them into an executive position at some company. This is a really, really good path for people who have the demonstrated ability to do the job, rather than just sort of knowing somebody who can get them in the door.
That's absolutely right. And there's a lot of tools out there to help you to understand different jobs and what they do. This is one of them. This is just on the Department of Labor, I always call it, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The
Mm,
Occupational Outlook Handbook was, this is what we used to use. It was 4 volumes before we had PeopleSoft. This is how people would, put those things together, put what job title should go with the duties and responsibilities. So
mhm,
this is used for jobs outside of the federal government. And
mhm.
so inside of the federal government, we basically have our own book that we call Handbook of Occupational Groups and Families. So this is going to show you the books, the jobs inside of the federal government. But if you're just exploring and you're not sure what you want to do, and you found some jobs like cyber,
Uh-huh.
everyone's looking at cyber. Well,
Yeah.
what does that really mean?
Yeah.
And so this will help you understand what it means outside of the federal government. And then I keep going to this website because right here are the standards. This is it. These are all the jobs. So if I were looking for cyber, I would go here and I would click on this. Inside of there is the standards, the actual standards for the job. So the reason why I bring this up is because, and this is where my class is a little bit different from other people's classes, is because I'm looking at it as a classifier, because those are the people you have to get by first.
Mm,
There's 3 audiences. You have your classifiers, you have the people who will be interviewing you, and you have the hiring official. Those are the 3 different audiences. The resume, for the most part, is for the classifier,
okay.
because they're the ones who are going to use the standards to go through, and we have 9 factors that we look at for every job, and it's a point system. So if you don't have the information in there, we can't give you the points. See, it's points. And so for each job, there are standards that you have to meet. So the standards that you see here on the OPM website is what's used to create the position description that you will actually work when you get the job. The position description is what they use to announce the job. So the information from the position description and what they want that person to do for that specific job is placed into the vacancy announcement.
Mm,
And so the way it all works, and it's a fabulous system designed by OPM, but most people don't use it this way, is that because they have these job families, if you say, okay, I'm into supply chain management, you can find that family and you can look at all the job series under it. So you have your main family, and then underneath. So if you qualify under the supply group, the question is, well, where do you want to play? Do you want to deal with packaging,
mm,
distribution, inventory? So there's not a job that's being done outside of the government that's not being done inside of the government.
mhm,
It's just that it's managed different, in that if you're a supply chain management person out in corporate America, you're responsible for multiple areas and doing a lot of things. But in the federal government, they break that one job down. That can break down into 6 different jobs,
mm,
including transportation. It gets into property management. So the question is, are you willing to do the work up front? Because in the end, once you have that solid resume, especially for your particular job series, then you're ready to go. So when you're out there and you're looking for the job, and you say, well, this is the job, this works, and you click here and you get all of those other jobs that are similar, all you need to do at that moment is to make sure on this side that you can apply, which
mhm,
you can use the filters to do that. And as you read through, you will find that they have similar requirements.
mhm.
So instead of just applying for one job with that resume, you can apply for all of these if you're willing to go to those locations and work and do what they're asking you to do in that particular one. But in terms of determining your qualifications, they will be so similar because they're in the same job family.
Yeah,
So
and
that's kind of,
because
mhm,
it's the federal government, their jobs in basically every community around the country. That particular job, that particular agency might not have a presence in your hometown,
Right.
but there's a really good chance, unless you live in an incredibly rural area, there's a really good chance that there are multiple positions within driving distance.
Absolutely. And the other part of this whole equation is really thinking about what you want to do, because as you read through all these 11 jobs, there may be some things in here that you're like, well, that's not quite where I wanted to go.
Mhm,
Mainly because these are very generic. This is a business program, so that makes sense.
mhm.
Um, this one is a work study, we don't know, but it's at the Library of Congress. So it could be so many things that you can do. And this is all that's there right now today when we clicked on it. So that's the other thing. Jobs come and go overnight. They
Mhm.
close at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. That's because it's DC time. And at midnight, more jobs are posted. So what you see today may be gone tomorrow, but there's always jobs coming in all the time.
Yeah.
And even more so now because of funding is being poured back into other agencies.
Mhm.
Um, Through COVID, we learned that certain agencies were not up to par in terms of how many people they had hired, and they couldn't sustain themselves. And so
Mhm.
they're all being forced through something called modernization, where they have to make sure they have a certain amount of staff. So different areas. If you know your area, and if it's just generic one like IT, everybody needs IT.
Oh, yeah.
And it even has its own direct hiring authority. So you don't even have to compete.
Mm.
If you have the qualifications, you can go and work for them. But
Yeah.
how do you get there? That's a whole nother story. But this website will make sure that you understand the jobs, understand the process, as well as teach you. Because once you start applying, if you don't hear anything, well, we know what that usually means. Because if I submit that job to Facebook and they never call me, that usually means I didn't get the job. But the good thing is you can always log back into the system and go and look for your notice of results to see, well, what happened with mine. And then it might be something there, it may not be. But one of the things they're turning toward now is this nice little thing here where it says we're accepting applications. So when you log back into the system and you click on it, it may say reviewing applications. It
Uh,
will give you the status of the overall um, announcement. And then for your personal, where am I in this process? You log in, you go to notice of results. It'll tell you whether or not you made it through the first part or not.
mm. Interesting.
But it's a wonderful system. I know people say, oh, so it's so complicated. And it is, but when you have a guide, when you have a do this, a checklist, which I'm the queen of checklists, then you'll find that it's, yeah, because everybody loves a good checklist. It really means that, okay, I don't have to eat this whole elephant.
Right.
I could just take a nibble at a time and go check. It
Right.
also means, right, they're
Yeah.
not in order, so you don't have to go
No.
1, 2, 3. You can just move around.
Yeah. And none of the candidates listening to this are have any need to know this from A to Z, backwards and forwards. They need to sort of know or be shown what's relevant to them. And so on that note, for those who are interested in learning more, Hope, about the services that you offer, you've talked about like your weekly webcasts. So they should go to your LinkedIn page to contact you.
Exactly. They can go to LinkedIn, and I'm at linkedin.com/in hopeful speaking. And then I always have it featured, whatever the schedule is, wherever we are. I usually put it out for 3 months. And these
Mm.
are my free training sessions. And so then you can go there. You can see I focus on three things: understanding the hiring process, because you got to know what's going on, and
Mhm.
then understanding how to read the vacancy announcement, and then how do I build my federal resume so that I actually, get the call for the interview.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think that this is going to be very eye-opening for a lot of people. It certainly has been for me. I've learned a lot of things, and I've learned that a lot of things that I thought I knew, I didn't.
Or maybe they were true at one time, but they're just not anymore.
Yeah, that's
It's changed a lot.
That's a nice way of putting it. Thank you so much, Hope. This has been awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.